Hello, hello. How are we doing, folks?
Hello. So right off the bat, before we start anything, there was a bid war for the in-game tag. In this case, PUWP, Power Up of Pride 1. So we're going to be using that for the rest of the run.
Yep, sorry about that, Conkles. Thank you so much.
If you're watching this later, I donated $6 and sniped you. Haha, I win.
Oh no.
PUWP forever.
We're so sorry about that, Conkles. Alrighty. Cool. So we've made our character. Sweet. When do we start time? Let me know.
I will let you know.
Cool.
So, for those who do not know, this is Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Subspace, Emissary, any %, where the goal is to get through everything as fast as possible and beat the final boss. This is not the game that came out 4 hours ago on the East Coast. This is the game that came out 11 years ago. So, if you're looking for a new gameplay of the Smash game, you won't find it here. So, time will start in 3, 2, 1, go.
I do remember playing this back in the day and really enjoying it, though. So it is still a pretty good game.
Oh,
It's a bad rap, but...
Great run, great game. We're going to start off by doing the 10-year-old strat, if you will. You know.
Yes! Fantastic. Okay.
Because, what else could you do? It's the fastest. So there's a lot of cutscenes in this run. We're going to skip pretty much all of them, just because they're really slow. Well, we're going to skip all of them. So these green enemies are known as Primids. They're going to be the main grunt enemy in the run. They're kind of annoying in some cases. This fight is really no exception. Getting this fight done quickly is really difficult. Just because there's a lot of enemies, some things don't get KO'd for the same type of move. So this, I'm using mostly forward smashes because these Primids with the swords get one hit to those, as opposed to other moves. So it's kind of just some moves are better than others. Moving into the first boss here, PD Piranha. We're going to use Kirby's Hammer a couple times. So RNG wasn't great there, but it was alright overall. So PD has a couple moves. There's that swing, which you just did. Then there's also you can jump. Jumping is kind of the slowest, and it didn't do that, so that's good. So moving into Skyworld, we're going to be Pit. And we're going to do Pit stuff, like gliding. So as you'll see throughout this entire run, gliding is pretty broken for reasons I'll explain in a little bit. So a lot of these fights where the camera's locked are scripted mostly. So like I'll basically be doing the same thing every fight. There is some RNG involved, but it's really not that substantial. So we're going to glide here because it's faster than running. Hit this creep a couple times, and go right into the door. So in this last one here, this last room, what I'm going to do is jump a couple times, start gliding, and by going up and down a lot in the glide, you gain a lot of speed. And we're going to carry that speed momentum all the way over the entire room, the whole way. Right here, I'm skipping over a fight, because the trigger to start the fight doesn't extend into the last zone, where it like, hits in the magnifying glass. So we're just going to skip over the fight, and that type of fight skip is going to be used multiple times in the run. So because we saved Zelda in the PD fight, didn't really mention that, but because we saved her then, we can use Zelda here. Zelda transforms into Sheik, who's faster than both Zelda and Kirby. So you can just use her for this room and this whole segment. This is the most exciting room in the game, you just run. There's literally nothing to do. Sometimes the transformation takes a bit long. That one wasn't too favorable. This game's load times are fairly slow due to just the Wii's capabilities. So compared to a game like Ultimate, this game loads like a snail. So most of Subspace here is just going to be running through a lot of enemies because if they're not actively hitting you, they can't hit you. So you can just run through them if you feel like. This is a mostly pacifist run, except for when we need to actually hit stuff. A lot of these forced fights, I'll call them, are when the camera locks, you need to complete the fight to progress. So like here, just gonna up smash this generator. Each forced fight has a certain amount, or a certain types of enemies that you need to defeat. So those mites, these little stick figure things, you don't have to defeat. Generally, things spawned by generators, but they're these like big black circles. They don't need to be defeated, and just the generators do in general. So moving into the end here. These creeps have a weak spot at their head. So you just hit those a couple times and they're done. Jungle, we're gonna have Diddy Kong. He's gonna be used a couple times. I think only 2 or 3 times, but he's pretty quick. Hits fairly hard. So it's just in general a good pick. A lot of these stages we get a choice of who to pick for the stage, and there are usually recurring themes on who gets picked because some characters are just a lot better than others. And we'll see that later in the run. So more just running through enemies. Goombas take a long time for them to start up their attack animation. So I went through this map, or this part fast enough to catch this cycle here. These track balls hit the enemies. And to get through that fight. Like I said, these fights are fairly scripted, and I generally know what I'm going to do for each of them. So here's the first longish auto-scroller. A couple things I want to talk about. Like I mentioned earlier, that gliding is generally faster. That's because in Subspace, a lot of or actually all of the characters' speeds, their like run speeds, are normalized. So they generally have like the same or like close to like a median speed. So you'll find characters like Marth, Captain Falcon are a lot slower, and some characters like Ganondorf or Zelda are faster. And gliding seems to be either the same speed or just a little bit faster than everyone's run speed, so that's why that gets used a lot. So we SD'd there just to get rid of Diddy Kong and move into Donkey Kong, just because he's a lot better for this fight. And that's Jungle. A lot of that stage is auto-scroller, so. So playing is mostly about optimizing movement for the first half, and then the second half is just doing well in fights. these trumpet things can get a little annoying sometimes, just because
Oh, I remember those trumpet things from before. I remember playing this part of this game.
they blow you back a good bit. But because we're on easy, it's not that bad. On higher difficulties, they just get way more strong, and it's just awful to deal with. But they're usually never going to be an issue.
Nice.
So there's going to be 4 fights here. They all have a set pattern as most other fights. So I'm just going to do a couple up smashes here, and that's the whole fight. So the next fight, I'm just going to stand right in the middle and just down smash twice. And that's that fight. So this third fight's a little trickier, just because the enemies are in kind of awkward spots. But generally, I'm just going to do something like that. Items are completely random, and some items are good in some situations, like a Mega Mushroom is good sometimes, because there is a good amount of startup to it. So like it takes a while for you to actually like become big. Other items such as smart bombs are just not good in general. Why can't I get this? There we go. There is a glitch at the end of this level. Sometimes if you get to the like ending loading zone fast enough, the screen doesn't really fade out, it kind of just cuts to black. I don't know why that happens. It seems that it happens when you go there fast enough. So Rayquaza is the next boss, and is also the most annoying. Rayquaza has a couple moves that are just awful. Like this one, using Fly. It's just really slow. You can't hit it during it, for the most part. So that kind of just loses a lot of time. A couple bosses just have moves that are just puts them out of the screen, and you can't do anything about it. So we're gonna pick Fox because he's a bit faster. I did say the speeds are normalized, but they weren't completely normalized. They're kind of just similar. So Fox is still going to be faster than someone like Diddy, but not by a whole lot. So Lake is probably the one of the most consistent stages, except for right at the beginning and right at the end. So right at the beginning was the Rayquaza fight. Again, RNG has a kind of big factor just because they're kind of annoying. You can lose 10-15 seconds really easily. And at the end is going to be the Bowser fight, which we'll get to in a bit. But other than that, everything in the stage is really, really straightforward. So that Goomba fight is always the same. This next part's always going to be the same, etc. We're going to hit that button to let us progress to the next part. And move into another auto-scroller. So there are a good number of auto-scrollers in this run, which is kind of unfortunate because they kind of just take away from the gameplay, but there's still usually stuff to do during them. Just to run around, hit some enemies, and talk about some stuff. I did want to talk about just running this game in general. This is one of the easiest speedruns that I've learned personally. All of like the skips and stuff, really aren't like difficult. Some are tricky, but there's nothing that's like you need to be a top runner or a perfect task level person to do. So a lot of the things are just very accessible. It is a fairly long run, which might detract from some people, but I mean, when you're actually running it, 2 hours feels like a half hour. You don't even realize that you've done a whole 2-hour run, which is one of the reasons why I like it a lot.
Yeah, I do recall this being very calming and relaxing back whenever I played this back in the day, and I could definitely see this being like a good speedrun to like get into for that sort of atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a really chill run, honestly, because you have a lot of breaks in the action with these auto-scrollers, but you also have enough action just in general. And I mean, it's a Smash game. If you know how to play Smash, you know how to speedrun this game already. It's just a matter of optimizing movement and doing some skips. Even with these skips, they don't save a significant amount of time. The world record right now is about 2 hours and 1 minute. Without skips, you can probably get 2:10 or so. So this Bowser fight, like I mentioned earlier, is fairly inconsistent. I'm going to try and just throw him off the stage, and then just spike him here, but that's easier said than done. So this is not going too great. Every once in a while it doesn't, but we can do that. So those pitfalls kind of spike them.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, the music in the run is really good. Gameplay's pretty good, and it's just a general fun run. So now we have one of the longest auto-scrollers in the game. If you would like to do any donation reading or anything.
I do remember this stage as well. I'm sorry, this is just me just rediscovering this game.
Yeah, this auto-scroll is about 2 minutes long, and there's nothing to do during it.
Nice. Well, I will refresh all my things and make sure that I have all of the most up-to-date information for me to share with you. Let's see. That's what I was looking for. So we've got our next donation incentive is going to be the final level song in We Love Katamari. I think we've still got a little while until then. Yeah, that'll be at about 9:20 a.m. From Garby the Glitcheress. What was that?
I'll be sleeping during them.
Yeah, I will probably have handed off, or I will be probably handing off to the morning folks at that point in time. But I do want to support Garby, and I do want to support the Trevor Project. And so for the We Love Katamari final level song, there's a whole slew of which songs you want to play during the final level. And looks like we've got As Everlasting Love in first place with $50, so could definitely use some competition there. We've got 50 and then 20 for Disco Prince and 8 on Katamari on the Rocks, which is a classic for what it's worth.
Katamari is a great game.
It really is.
The new Katamari game comes out today.
Yeah, exactly. We're so relevant and with the times here with our selections of games, and it totally wasn't just like very awesome happenstance that happened with Smash and that today.
Yeah, we have both Smash and Katamari. The new game's coming out on Sunday.
Yeah,
Definitely,
and we've got the first Deltarune marathon appearance ever.
Ooh.
So yeah, we've got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. It looks to me like you're through your. Oh my goodness! I remember
We
these
are
guys.
through our long auto-scroller. Now we're actually in Room 2. There's really not that much to do here. There's just a lot of fighting.
Yeah, I do remember these ghosts, and I do remember them being a lot of fighting, and this level being pretty tedious. Yeah. Wow.
Another reason why I like this run so much is because people, they just watch it and are like, oh yeah, Brawl. I haven't played that in 8 years, but I liked it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, you should look into speedrunning it then. It's a good game.
It gets a bad rap, but you know, you still played this, so it couldn't have been that bad, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had multiple people come in who are like, just in the run in general, they like kind of just gave it like a meh without like considering it, because like there's the whole stigma of Brawl's a bad game, and it's not a good competitive game, but it's a good game.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh yeah, I didn't really think I'd like this run, but it's just really good, just for a bunch of reasons. That's one of the reasons why I like it a lot. So I'm going to
really
set
cool.
up for a skip here. We'll see if that happens. It's a fairly difficult one. I need to kill these flows first, just because they really disrupt the skip. So I'm going to move all the way to the edge of this platform, jump over and PK Thunder. That looks good, and that skips the fight. So that really only saves like 15-20 seconds, but it's probably the hardest skip in the game, I would say, the hardest individual one. The next one is coming up in this stage, Battlefield Fortress. So this is very difficult stage to do the entire thing very well. This beginning minute is very easy. Just run through these pyramids, shield any of the ones that do that move. But the rest of it is it looks really cool if it's done well. So hopefully I can get it, but we'll see. Have not been having great luck with it lately, but who knows?
Well, I hope you get it, but if you don't, at least you tried. So I'm definitely always in for trying cool strats.
Yeah, so coming up in the next room is a skip, which is probably the hardest sequence of skips in the game. It takes about 1.5 minutes, but we get to show off Meta Knight. So this is actually the only instance in the run where we have the choice of picking Meta Knight and we don't pick him. That says something about Meta Knight, and if you know anything about the game competitively, you know that Meta Knight is the best. He's also the best in Subspace. The competitive tier list does not translate super well to this game, to single player mode, just because characters that are good in Subspace are good for their own reasons, characters that are good in competitive are good for their own reasons, so there's a bit of a disjoint, except for Meta Knight. Meta Knight's just good in any aspect. And we'll get to show that off a bit. So I died with Marth right before the end of the fight. That's going to get me to be Meta Knight in the next room, and that's the fastest way to do it. So now that we're Meta Knight, we get to abuse Meta Knight. First, we're going to glide. So, like we did in Skyworld, we're going to skip over a fight here. We're going to trigger this second fight, move back into the first fight. Stay with me now. We're going to take one of the pyramids from the first fight into an auto-scroller. We're going to wait a bit in the auto-scroller. We're going to essentially end the first fight, and then fly over the rest of the level. Why this works, I don't know. How this works, I can still barely understand. But this skips about 4 fights and about 1.5 minutes. And that is auto-scroller skip.
Nice.
So basically what you did, or what happened there was, when we left the second fight to move back into the first one, the game kind of thought that the second fight was over, and when you finish that fight, the camera unlocks. So the camera just unlocked, but we were still technically in the first fight, so there was still another layer of camera unlocking to be done. So when we finished the first fight in the autoscroller, the camera unlocked again, and we were allowed to just move through the autoscroller at will. If I had not done the rest of that quick enough, the auto-scroller, which was still going on in the background, would have ended, we would not have been in the position where the auto-scroller ended. Would have had a really glitchy death, and then just respawn where we were. But that didn't happen, and we got to skip all the fights. Yeah, it's a very convoluted skip. It's way easier done than said, honestly.
Yeah, it looked like it. It looked like the kind of thing that you just sort of get a
Here's
feel
another
for.
fight skip Meta Knight. Hopefully. This one's kind of hard because you got to go at a fairly precise angle. Yeah, I did miss it. Fortunately, I died there. So we're gonna have to do this fight. Missing the skip loses about a minute. You gotta go at a kind of weird angle and then level out at a certain time, and it's kind of weird. And like I said earlier, my Battlefield Fortresses have not been great lately, so got the cool skip though. That's what matters. This one's just a regular, boring fight skip. But it's fairly straightforward. Because we're marked, you can just up smash everything. Which pretty much one-shots everything. So.
Yeah, that sure is an interesting hitbox.
Yeah, the hitbox for Mark's up smash are kind of at his feet and then lead into his sword, which is a little odd, but it's been like that for a while, so not gonna question it. So moving into Forest, we get a choice between Link and Yoshi. Link is probably the worst character in Subspace, so we're gonna pick Yoshi. Yoshi's actually really good though, mainly because of the side B move, which just gives him a lot of speed. So speaking on earlier and how not all the enemies are required to be defeated, that boomerang one did not have to be. Even though generally you'll just KO it anyways because it's there, you don't have to. So most of the stages that have Yoshi in them are just going to use as a side B, just because it's super quick. It's faster than pretty much any run. And it's just good. Yoshi's just a good character in general. So I'm going to get damage boosted into this fight here. If you are in the side B and you like end it over like a pit, you just die because you go into what's called special fall, which means you can't do anything until you get back on the ground. So that's generally what happens after you do a recovery move, like an up B. But for Yoshi, it's also side B.
Okay, yeah, I do remember
that door. You can enter through the blocks, which is a little odd, but just how the hitboxes work. There's also ladders, which are really, really slow. So in general, you just try and jump up them. Like there. Alright, that's the end of Forest.
I do like the very elaborate backgrounds that they have in this game.
Yeah, the scenery and the backgrounds are really interesting.
Yeah. Alright, well. Bad stage to show it off, I guess, this time, so sorry about that, but next time.
So another character who gets picked almost every time is Pikachu. Pikachu's pretty good. Just because, again, movement and Pikachu is what's called a quick attack cancel. So if you quick attack into the floor, you can jump out of it and kind of remove a lot of the landing line that you have. And that's kind of used just as a minor movement optimization in some areas. So those robs are pretty good. This rob hits you every single time, so you always gotta shoot it. So now we're gonna do one of the few sequence breaks in this game. It's very minor, but what I'm gonna do is just go all the way to the edge here, use Thunder, hit a button, and move on. So that avoids having to move up through this section to get a key and to hit that button. Both Pikachu and Zero Suit Samus can do that, and it's just very easy to do. It takes advantage of the fact that hitboxes can go through ceilings and floors, so you just hit a button through that. We do something similar later, and it's just putting a hitbox through the floor to hit a button. It's really easy. So if we stand right here, we can spam down taunt for another 30 or so seconds, and you get to see how adorable Pikachu is while we don't get hit.
Fantastic.
You could also be boring and just crouch, but you know, you could just taunt. These two enemies we're not even going to see. Just going to hit them with Thunder. And do some backtracking. So again, we're just going to avoid the slider because it's slow. More enemies to avoid here. More robs to shield. Now we're moving into these metal pyramids. They have a special property in that they reflect any projectiles. That really shouldn't happen here, but it is something they can do. Alright, and that's Research Facility 1. We'll be back kind of similar here later to Research Facility 2.
So what are they researching?
Something with Rob's and Samus's power suits there too.
That's right. I do remember there being something with the rubs in particular.
Yeah, so in Research 1, they're using Pikachu as like a generator, and then in 2, they're doing something with Samus's power suit. So this is probably the hardest split in the game. This fight and the next one are just really difficult for some reason. The AIs are just unfairly good, especially for Eevee. So I'll struggle through this. Sometimes you can get really lucky and just get a good pattern, but not this case. So that's the first one, and we got one more. Gonna pick Pit for both of them just because it's easy to KO the enemies. So in this fight we get a partner of Mario. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so much. Mainly because we want these enemies to go to the left here. Sometimes Mario just doesn't let us do that. More often than not, AIs, like these characters, are going to jump after you hit them. That's really easily exploitable. That'll be used a lot more later on in the maze, but for now, just keep that in mind. Again, using Yoshi because it's really fast. I'm gonna try and down tilt these just because it's a bit faster. Sometimes not. These bombs are a little annoying. But that's the end of that first part. So we're gonna move through this moving platform into the next room, where we are greeted with a nice auto-scroller.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to remind everybody to drink a little bit of water. Just take a sip.
Yeah, always a good idea. Stay hydrated. Some other things I can talk about, just to put some stuff out there, is about the community for Brawl speedrunning. It was fairly inactive until earlier this year. I started running this in February. Back then, the world record was 213, 214, 215 even, I don't even remember. Now it's at 201. It really hadn't experienced like that kind of growth, or like the world record went down by that much in the past like 2 years beforehand, so what we were able to accomplish in like 6 months was the same as the past 2-3 years, just because of just a lot of activity. We've had a lot of new runners, a lot of people be interested in the run, other categories such as Classic, All-Star. There's been a good community. It's been smaller. There's probably about 4 or 5 people that actually run Subspace actively. But everyone's always super helpful with just helping new people out, finding new strats and everything.
So you're saying that your estimate a year ago was sub world record?
Yeah. When I started running this game, the world record was 214. And now the world record is 201, my PD is at 202. So that's mostly because of a couple new skips that were found, just general optimization, just people playing more, and just getting better as a whole.
That's really
So,
cool.
yeah.
I'm glad that y'all.
Yeah, something like a 210 was super unrealistic until recently.
That's really cool.
Smashed it. No pun intended.
Hey, I remember seeing. I think you tweeted about getting new PDs in this run. So it's like an active run that you're still actively working on.
Yeah, I've been working on it for a while. For me, every PB I get is accompanied with some huge time saves, so it's always like, I can do a lot better in this one section. Like, this part was really good, but I have 2 minutes to save here or something. So the run isn't perfectly optimized yet, but we're kind of getting there. Our goal is to get sub 2. That's kind of been the long-term goal for a long time, just because we've always been really close. And hopefully soon we can get there.
That's really cool.
So here's another really easy fight skip. You can just jump over PK Thunder. You don't even have to get a good angle. Just go over the fight there. Alright, we'll take that unintentional damage boost there. Sometimes getting hit is good, sometimes it's not. Most of the times it's not. There's a couple places where you can damage boost though. So these fires are really annoying, so we're just going to put them out with the buttons. Because Lucas's head is so big, you can actually get through... You can hit the buttons without like being in that little alcove there. So that saves a kind of like a fraction of a second, but still works. So as you might have seen earlier in Battlefield Fortress, these enemies grow when they get hit. However, when they grow, they're invincible. So the strategy for those is to just hit them and just kill them before they have a chance to grow, and therefore you won't have any invincibility frames. So coming up here, these things are called Armites, and they're probably the most annoying enemy in the game. Luckily, they're not a problem here. But what they can do,
I do remember
they
these two.
can become invincible for just a whole like backflip move. They can do a bunch of damage. They're just annoying. But thankfully, I got a Mega Mushroom there, and they were no issue. So another kind of hard fight sometimes is Wario here. What I'm going to do is just use a lot of PK fires. And hope it works out. I need one more. Yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. Good. So basically what I did there was just hit him against the wall a lot and then up smash. And that killed him. So once again, picking Yoshi. This is probably the most important stage to be Yoshi in, because there's a lot of horizontal stretches where you can just abuse side B speed in. So in that fight, and kind of throughout these areas, there's Koopas. So what the Koopas do is, when you do enough damage to them, or if you don't do enough damage to them to like one-hit KO them, but if you do like enough damage, they'll kind of like retreat into their shells. And when they do that, they're still considered enemies on the screen. So sometimes you'll just like be done with the fight and think it's over, but there's still one like red shell just hanging out, and that needs to be off screen before the full fight is completed. So sometimes that's an issue, but generally when you're dealing with red Koopas, or just Koopas in general, you do enough damage that they get KO'd anyways. But sometimes it's a little annoying. Gotta wait for this last one here. Sometimes an enemy previous to it will drop an item that I can just drop onto that last one, but sometimes not.
May I plug them? Oh, no, you're good. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna plug the marathon real fast. You're watching Power Up with Pride Winter Pride 2018 here on Twitch. We're running from December 6th to 9th for 24 hours a day. So just going straight through Sunday night. We're benefiting the Trevor Project. And to find out more about them, you can check out the panels underneath the stream. You are good to go again.
So what I'm going to do right here in Rainbow Squirtle is go for a little cycle skip. Kind of difficult, and I'm not going to be able to get it there, which is okay. You can kind of get a half cycle here, getting through that before the block hits the entrance. So for some reason, if you air dodge under those spike platforms, you just kind of clip right through them. It's pretty nice. And that's the whole room there. We, again, have no auto scroller. So they're character-wise here, you pick Squirtle because he has an easier time getting through that cycle skip that I tried to get through compared to Lucas. It's also a matter of speed, but in general, Lucas is better, and we'll get back to Lucas in a bit. There's a couple of points in the run where there's just strategic self-destructs just to get to a better character, like what we did in Battle to the Fortress to get to Meta Knight, like what we're going to do here to get to Lucas. Maybe one or two more. So there's a bit of a moving platform here, kind of just hang out. I don't need to be Squirtle anymore, but keep him around for just a little longer. Because of the story, or because of how the story's progressing, Squirtle can't transform into Ivysaur or Charizard yet because we haven't unlocked them. Those come later in this level. But so if you were to use down B when you were Squirtle, nothing would happen.
Did the platform just tilt because, like, is that just part of the challenge?
Yeah, it's always does that.
That's kind
It's
of
not weighted down or anything.
That's weird. It kind of seems like it just doesn't really give you much indication that it's about to move like that.
Yeah. So that door that I went through there and immediately left, that was to remove the moving platform. That kind of just ends the auto-scroller. That's faster in easy and normal difficulties. In higher difficulties, auto-scrollers move faster, so doing that little skip isn't worth it. We're gonna do a skip just like that later to move the camera in another level.
That's really neat. I never thought about the speed at which the auto-scroller continues to scroll being a facet of how hard it is, but I guess that totally makes sense. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you.
Right. Yeah, it's just one of the extra challenges. So the main thing with difficulties is enemies do more damage and knockback, and they have more health, and auto-scrollers are faster. That's about it. But it's enough of an issue that just makes the speedrun just a lot longer. For the most part, each difficulty that adds about 10 to 12 minutes, like if done correctly and like well. Mostly because of the great maze in the end, all those enemies just have different strategies for their fights, and just are harder in general. And there are a couple extra enemies on like the highest difficulties that get spawned, but they usually are an issue. So Charizard fight here can either go really well or really bad. In this case, it's gonna go maybe okay. Almost talked too soon. Well, I'll take it. So what I tried to do there is just back first like I did with Bowser, but it almost worked, but still were able to KO him as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So as always, picking Meta Knight. When I said that was the only time we didn't pick Meta Knight, I was not lying. Meta Knight's just that good. He has a little bit of an issue with kill power, but everything else kind of makes up for it. Mostly the gliding. Now if Marth could glide, Marth had wings, it'd be a different story. But Marth does not have wings.
Not yet.
Alright,
until
so
you...
I did a dumb and died with Meta Knight. Let's see if we can recover this. Should be able to, actually. Alright, so maybe lost like 3 seconds there, but disregard those last 3 deaths I had. did not mean to.
Hey, we're back.
So if I wasn't able to get that last death with Ike, I would have had to wait a really long time to do it again. So as long as I don't die anymore, I'll be good. So we're gonna ride this enemy all the way to the top, jump over a couple of times, skip a fight with the tornado, and then fall. There is a way to clip through that mountain. It's very difficult, I'm not able to do it. It takes about 10 seconds done optimally, but it's really hard to do optimally. It's generally just like a IL only strat. So we're gonna glide over this whole thing, gain some speed just to go horizontal through the whole way.
The backgrounds here, the scenery here is also really impressive.
Yeah, it looks really nice. There's an issue later in the level where the background doesn't stretch all the way down to the bottom, but other than that, it looks really nice. I'll point it out when I get there. But there's just a nice big black bar at the bottom. I believe it's this level. Should be.
That's funny.
So standing at this one point, I can just down smash these and KO in one hit. Yeah. Might actually not be here. There's somewhere in the game where the there's just a giant black bar on the bottom.
I believe you. Meta Knight's also good against bosses. Meta Knight can do it all. We also pick Meta Knight because Marth and Ike are kind of just bad. Marth is good for the one time we use him, and the one time we're forced to use him. But other than that, not great. So that's Gallium. If you miss Gallium, then just wait about 30 seconds, because we get to fight him again. For some reason, they thought it was a good idea for you to fight the same boss twice in a row. So we're gonna do it. Well, as a Mega Man speedrunner, I totally feel your pain.
So now if you really, really miss Gallium, just play Ultimate because he's there too. And we will see him again this run, but just play Ultimate. So something I haven't mentioned this run is that I'm playing on the PAL version. That's because the PAL version lets us do this skip. So we're going to skip a fight there, navigate through what is normally an auto-scroller, and KO at the end. So if we were on NTSC, we'd get moved back to the beginning of the level, but because we're on PAL, for some odd reason that nobody knows, we get to move on through the whole thing. It saves about a minute and a half. Again, don't know why it works, but it does. So now we're gonna glide through this level, do some cool movement here, and skip this fight. And move over to the end of the level. To use the PAL copy of the game, you don't need a PAL Wii. It makes it easier, but if you have an NTSC Wii, you can get homebrew and then like region unlock it. That's totally okay because it doesn't like affect load times or anything. And that's the second Wilds. You skip half of it with the PAL exclusive skip, also known as PAL skip, because we are unoriginal with our names. So So moving into possibly one of the hardest levels overall on the run, Swamp. It's fairly long, this has a lot of things that can go wrong in it. Starting out with this movement section, not really knowing what you're doing can easily spell death for you. Especially the second room here. This level also introduces wind, which can affect your gravity. And just how fast you fall. Or how slow you fall, depending on the direction. There's a fight to do there. We have a bit of an auto-scroller here. I also forgot to mention earlier, because I mentioned gravity. The characters' gravities are increased, and their fall speed is increased. As such, using someone like Pit's recovery, you really can't gain height. So it's kind of bad, but in general, it's not that big of a deal. Doing the same camera thing here, like we did in Ruins, to just move the camera up in the auto-scroller a bit. And we're going to move on to the hard part of the level. Well, it could be the hardest part or the easiest part, depending on what the day is. So I guess we'll see what the day is like today. So, Giant Diddy. What we're going to do is roll back a couple times and hope for the best. If we get hit, it's over. If not, well... something like that happens. So we just throw them back into the blast zone and the fight's over. So that was a good fight. Wasn't perfect, but definitely okay. Things that can go wrong are getting hit, Diddy getting an item, and you getting hit, you missing the throw, pretty much everything except you getting the throw and killing Giant Diddy. The rest of the level is fairly easy and nice looking in comparison. Starting out with these cannons. Oh. Alright. Now, the spring room, if done well, is really cool. Springs refresh your jumps, so if you land on a spring, you can just jump again. So there's the first part to it. Gonna try and do a damage boost here. Almost got it. And into the last room. So, Swamp is mainly difficult because of Diddy. Other than that, there's just a couple things that might not go as well, like that fight near the beginning before the first auto-scrolling. This fight, if you don't know what you're doing, can go really badly, but all you really have to do is just forward smash the Koopas. They probably shouldn't hit you. There's, like I said earlier, about the Koopa shell.
Loving this Yoshi's Island music.
Yeah. Not exactly sure why they put it in here, but it's welcome. And that'll end Swamp. So moving from one of the hardest to
in the mouth.
another one of the hardest. Research Facility 2. This is another level with some cool movement, some skips, and some really annoying fights. So we're going to pick Zero Suit for pretty much one reason, and that's at the end of here. the end of this one room. So we picked Zero Suit Samus because we can down air down this ladder and it's a lot faster. Pretty much the only reason. It's about the same speed as going Pikachu there. Except for that ladder movement, so might as well. And now we have the Dark Samus fight, which is also pretty annoying. So what I'm going to try and do is just get down smashes off, and then use Thunder to KO them off the top. I will say that a fight like that has maybe happened like 3 times in my speedrunning career this game, so that's good.
Congrats.
That was a really good fight. So now we're gonna pick Samus. Samus is kind of okay here. This room is just kind of a mess sometimes. Mainly this part, but we'll stumble through it. The most important thing for this room is to not get KO'd with Samus. Doesn't really matter if you go super slow or not, just stay alive. Because we're going to do a Death Warp in here. Alright, let's take this a little safe. There we go. So we're going to jump off the side, go really far to the right, and when we spawn back in as Pikachu, we're going to be right where we want to be. Hit a button up top, do a swag jump here, and move on to the next player. So the reason we want to be Pikachu here is because we can do another sequence break here, in this room, where we can climb up this area and avoid a couple rooms in the rest of this part. So you're not really intended to get to the top of this room, but you can. And here we are at Ridley, probably the most temperamental boss. Like I was saying a while ago with Rayquaza, how the bosses just move off screen. Ridley is the worst occurrence of that. However, I'm getting really good RNG, so that's good. Well, how long will that last? Yeah, there you go. So here's one move that just kicks Ridley off screen. You can't hit him at all. But overall, that was a pretty good fight. So after Research 2, we got a little bit of a break for some time with some easier segments, such as Outside the Ancient Ruins, where we get to see Captain Falcon. Like I said earlier, Falcon's slow in comparison to what he normally is in the game. But Falcon is still the fastest. And our only other option here is Olimar, who is probably the worst in the game in Subspace. Probably even worse than Link. Olimar is just really, really bad. And that's the whole platforming part. Now we go into a fight. And we're going to unleash our other inner 10-year-old with Donkey Kong and just down B a lot. This is the best strat in this fight just because it hits a lot and it hits really hard. It even hits things that are in the air normally. So we kind of just do this for a little bit, moving around as necessary. ending with some metal fragments and another sword. And that's that. So kicking back up the action into Glacial Peak, more Meta Knight movement. This is probably some of the coolest movement with Meta Knight that we're going to see. Because it's not just gliding. So with Meta Knight, if you use your shuttle loop, like the up B, and it like lands on a platform like right at the top of it, it does what's called a shuttle loop cancel. And you can act really quickly out of it. So I was trying to get a first cycle there, unfortunately I got the second cycle. A little bit more missed cannons here, but it's alright. But generally the movement with Meta Knight here is all these shuttle loop cancels, and if done well, it looks really cool. It can be done really quickly. Meta Knight has one more quirk that usually is not seen. We'll get there later in this auto-scroller. So as you know, Meta Knight is pretty good in terms of like competitive. And he just has a lot of good options like up air and up B and neutral air and all of his moves. But Meta Knight does have one thing that's a bit too good for competitive. In fact, they banned it from competitive because it's just broken. And once we get to a ledge up here, we get to show that off. So we're just going to disappear. So if you use down B and then hit up on the C stick a whole lot, you just disappear. So this is called the Infinite Dimensional Cape, and is banned in tournaments, well, what were tournaments in this game, because you become completely invincible. And it's a little broken. Fortunately, I couldn't really get a good Infinite Dimensional Cape there, but you can stay disappeared indefinitely, as long as you have the effort to mash your C-stick forever. It's a fun little thing to do. Especially on this auto-scroller, because there's really nothing else to do. Some more catching some doors out of frame. Blast Zone still exists, so if you go too high up you can die. So I kind of wait for a certain visual cue to start jumping there. Alright, moving on to the rest of the segment here. A little bit more movement. These Glyces are some of the worst enemies to get hit by, because getting frozen is not fun. And that'll be that for Glacial Peak. Just one more quick fight here with Lucario. Ideally, I'm just going to down smash him to the blast zone, but sometimes Lucario's other plans for us.
Every time that I hear Lucario's name, I can only think of that old Brawl like meme video that somebody made back in the day. It's like Wario, Lucario.
So moving into Canyon, which is kind of similar to the end of Ancient Ruins. It's just a long fight with like 30, 40 enemies or something. So we'll be here for a little while. 50 enemies even. I think this is the only segment that's like this, where it's just a fight. Or just like an arena fight. But it's fairly straightforward. Pick Yoshi, because Yoshi hits hard.
He's got those big boots on and he's not afraid to use them. I've never noticed how extravagant Yoshi's boots are, despite the fact that he's a dinosaur, but he still has very big boots.
If you don't hit all those flyers right away, you gotta wait for them to respawn. It takes a little bit of time. Well, that's Canyon. Very, very straightforward. I believe moving on after this is the Battleship Halberds. So if you like Snake, you're not really going to see him for a while. So sorry. So we got about 20 seconds of Snake, where he's just going to be dash attacking. Because that's Snake's fastest form movement, dash attacks. And that's all we're going to see of Snake for a little bit. Because we can pick Meta Knight, and why not? So the objective of this part is to KO the generators and hit buttons. So that's what we're gonna do. You can do a swag strat there where you hit the button with a shuttle loop cancel and then tornado out, but didn't fully get it, but wasn't punished too hard for it, so it's alright. This fight coming up here is pretty tricky because these Beam Sword Primates don't get KO'd in one hit from Meta Knight. So the optimal strat is to just push them off the stage. Unfortunately, I really didn't get any of them off here. But if you just push them off, it actually KOs them faster than if you were to do it regularly. So we have this very dark room that obviously you can't see through. But you can hit the buttons if you want extra light. Ending this section is going to be 5 enemies, 5 doors. So you gotta KO each enemy to open the 5 doors and to move on. You can hit this metal primate through the wall, which is really convenient because there's a lot of movement to get there regularly. And that's the bulk of interior, so the rest of it is just going to be a fight with Dark Peach and Dark Zelda, where hopefully they'll cooperate. But unlikely because they usually never do. Yeah, it's not terrible, but ideally I would get them grouped up to just down smash both of them to kill them at the same time, but not happening. One at a time then. Yeah, that was kind of slow, but that's kind of just how it goes.
Sometimes you go slow when you go fast.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So in Exterior, we're introduced to this new character called Sheik. We totally didn't use her earlier, and I guess we're not using her now because, oops, I didn't mean to fall through that platform. I'm just gonna, let's just get back to Sheik here because Peach is bad. Anyways, pretend those two deaths didn't happen, and we're Sheik the whole time. So we're introduced to this new character called Sheik. It's just Zelda, obviously. For some reason the camera's a bit high up. That was odd. But the exterior wind physics are really annoying because you're just going... Wind is going the opposite way and it affects your movement a lot, so you just go super slow. Take a damage boost there just to get to the end a lot faster. Sheik section is like running to the right for no reason. And now we have a fun fight here. That fight's very easy, it's just a matter of finishing off the primates quickly. This creep is a pain, because if you get caught in a spinning attack, you can't really get out. And some more outdoor wind physics platforming to finish the level. The wind there is a bit more forgiving because it's going in the direction that you're going, so you get to move a bit extra, but it's still kind of annoying. So if you miss Snake, you get to see him again. We're going to use Snake here against this boss because it's pretty good. Snake hits really hard. And also has what's called a Dacus, or a dash attack cancelled up smash. So you just do a long sliding up smash. It's really good for movement. And just does a lot of damage anyways. We had a jumpy duo on today. Usually it doesn't jump more than once. Alright. There's something... I don't know what determines what characters have a Dacus. Some characters don't because their dash attacks don't go that far. But Snake just has the most pronounced one because he just goes flying. I'm reading Marathon Chat, don't worry. So Bomb Factory 1 is the shortest platforming segment, if you will. The shortest segment is Ruined Hall, where we fought Galleon the second time. But this is super short. This level is intended for more exploration, but we don't need to because I know where I'm going. And that's the entire level. So the longest segment in the game is this one, Subspace Bomb Factory 2. Gonna pick Captain Falcon, as always, because he's pretty good. And just get through the level, because it's super, super long. The IL world record is 5 minutes 55 seconds. That's after a really big skip was found. So it's just it's almost a drag, but there's stuff to do the whole time. It's not like half of it's not a scroller.
Is RTA anywhere close to the IL?
Yeah, in general, the IL records are just RTA records. So like the IL record is what I did in my PB. Not too many people just grind ILs in this game. There's a couple, like I mentioned earlier with that one mountain clip. That is an IL only strat, but it's not super in practice because people generally don't do that. There is another strat in Bomb Factory 1 that I was just in. You can click through the ceiling on the elevator, but it's really hard to do, and if you miss it, loses a good amount of time, so... That's for the IL leaderboards there. So here we have switches. There's 3 to do.
Wow, that was some really slick ladder action there.
So I did that attack there just in case that one thing hit me, and it did, so I just got out of the way and didn't get hit by it. Trying not to get hit here just because it wastes a lot of time. Gonna go for a damage boost on this fire here. You can get through these fires like a lot faster, but sometimes if you don't do it right, the camera doesn't follow you, and because the camera is very like strict in this run, you just get KO'd. So I always generally play it safe and just jump. It is a bit slower than if it was done properly, but it's just a lot safer. Get this key, move on into the next part of the stage. Take a long, long fight. We're gonna pick Captain Falcon. This was like the biggest revelation in the actual story, if you're keeping along with that. The main villain was a Rob the whole time. Spoilers.
Yes, the thing which they were creating was that which was...
It was one of them the whole time.
Yeah.
And basically all the Robs just like get destroyed and everyone's all sad, and the one behind it all was like, hang on, that's me.
Oh ho.
And then he kind of just saves everyone. This is probably the most annoying part of this fight here. These ones, the birds you can usually just up air and KO right away. So these are the last 2 enemies here. I'm going to be doing a quick kill on them. If you let those tanks kind of settle, they hole up and you can't really do a lot of damage to them. But if you hit them fast enough, you can just KO them. So here I'm going to be going for a trick. Not sure if I'm going to get it, but we'll see. I'll explain it if I do it or not afterwards. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get it. I've been having really bad luck with that. So what I meant to do was go over the wall on the left, then kind of skip this entire auto-scroller. That ends up saving about a minute and a half. So unfortunate that I didn't get it, but it's alright. So I'm just gonna SD into Falcon, which I would have done anyways if I had gotten that skip. It would have just killed me, and I would have been the Falcon, who I want to be anyways, for later in these auto-scrollers. That skip that I tried to do does have a variation that makes it work better on PAL. Again, for some reason that I don't know. On PAL, you end up dying and then moving down here. On NTSC, you only skip the autoscroller, but you stay like alive. And it does lose a bit of time compared to PAL. Which is interesting, because there's really no reason for it to be like that. But there is for some reason. So I'm going to SD again to get to Donkey Kong, because we're going to use him in the boss fight coming up. And because he's already loaded, the boss fight loads with DK faster. We kind of used that a little while ago with Fox on the giant Diddy fight. We just found that using Fox makes it load faster because we were already Fox earlier and it had the model loaded and everything. Which is a minor optimization, but being DK here saves 7 seconds over not, so it's pretty important. Meta Ridley is our next boss. Mainly just gonna up smash, up air. Just because DK is really good at that. Come on. Alright. I believe that might be the last major boss fight. I think so. So we have a selection of every single character. We're gonna pick Meta Knight. And most of this level is an auto-scroller, unfortunately. But it's not that long. We get to see a couple funny quirks about the game. So these generators, these big black orb-looking things, they're just a suggestion. Generally, they don't need to exist to spawn things, like just happen there. So they can be long defeated, but they'll still spawn enemies. For some reason, they just, they can't accept the fact that they're dead, I guess. Seems to be only these as well that work in that way. And now we are going to do the longest fight skip of all of them. Skipping 3 separate fights here. Never mind. I honestly have not died there in a very long time. I believe I can still skip some fights. I'm not sure if that was the first fight though. We can kind of back it up with Pit, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Alright. It's really unfortunate. I blame the fact that it's 6 in the morning right now. For not perfect play, but it's still good. But anyways, we skipped one of the fights, so that's good. Now we go into Subspace, where we get to save a couple of, or some of the characters that used to exist and are now trophies. But we really don't need a lot of them, so. So we're going to be really picky on who we take with us in our final journey. As in, really want 4 characters. First one is going to be Pokemon Trainer, because Charizard's pretty good. Second one's going to be DK for the sole purpose of menuing. There's Marth, again, for the sole purpose of menuing. And the last character is going to be in the next section. Come on. So, similar to how we started the run with Kirby side, we're going to come close to ending it with the DD side. I'd say come close, because there's another 35 minutes in the run, but that's okay.
It's all about that continuity.
Saving loses a bit of time, so we don't save. But the cursor defaults to save, so if you don't hit up after every single level, you save. Which is not great. So every once in a while you get an accidental save.
Good for everyone but speedrunners.
Pretty much. So last character we get, obviously, Metadata. And we go into an auto-scroller. This is the last auto-scroller in the run. I think. Probably. So,
Woo!
that's good, yeah.
That's pretty exciting for, I mean, this game, I remember even casually really loved the auto-scrolling mechanic, so to be done with that part in this game is pretty
We're
rad.
an hour and a half in, and the auto-scrollers are no more. At least I assume we're an hour and a half in. For any more, that might be an issue. Generally, top times at the end of Subspace 2 are around anywhere from a high 129 to like a low 132. So usually just aim to be around there. Sometimes the mid 132 is okay. But don't know where I am. Find out later. No big deal. Alright. How weird does Brawl feel? It doesn't really feel, because this run is mostly muscle memory now. So I'm not really like having to like get used to the characters again, and just do the same inputs. But Ultimate is pretty darn good. Would recommend.
Have you been playing it?
Yeah, I was playing it since midnight today. And now I'm here. After this, I have to go study for an exam, take the exam, go to bed, and play more Ultimate.
Yeah. That's what
Alright,
you do.
so here we are at the Great Maze. It is it's a long segment, so buckle up. What it is we're gonna fight every single enemy, every single boss, and it's a time. So starting out with Petey Piranha makes sense. He's the first boss you fought. And the general strategy for all these fights is going to be doing some move into Meta Knight's upbeat. And for some reason, Meta Knight's upbeat does an exorbitant amount of knockback, and it's just really, really good. So that's going to be the main method to finish all these fights in as fast as possible. There's also a fun amount of gliding. So that's cool. A couple fights have like specific strats, like Kirby here. Some are kind of just do as you will. Well, I say Kirby has a strat, and then Kirby doesn't do the movement that Kirby usually does. Thanks, Kirby. So now Kirby's an ad-lib one now. Yep. That's exactly what is supposed to happen. Absolutely. Generally, Kirby doesn't jump immediately and just falls. So I'm able to down smash, which leads into a shoulder. But because Kirby jumped, couldn't do that. For Link, I can usually dash attack here, and then up B. And I can grab ledge, which prevents anyone else from grabbing the ledge. But really isn't an issue there. Some stages it might, or some fights it might be good. If you go too high there with a shuttle loop, you die, so I'm always super careful on gliding here. Next fight is Yoshi, which can also go well or go wrong. What Yoshi usually does is jumps at me. What Yoshi does after that is up to RNG. Kind of just want it to do nothing. Like that, and that's the fight. So because Yoshi uses double jump, can't use it again after I hit him, so just falls. Moving on to Diddy. Diddy's one of the most awkward fights, in my opinion, because the stage layout is very odd. Hopefully I can get what I usually do here. Missed it, barely. Still okay. What I tried to do there was just up air into shuttle loop, but a little bit of a back out. So I'm going to enter this door and then leave right away, because we're going to warp back here later. Very soon, actually. And just going through the door means that you can warp there. Simply seeing it isn't enough. Ooh, alright, Falcon. What are you doing? Falcon's always weird. But usually not all of them. One of the few instances in the run where you can use infinite dimensional cape. It is faster than tornado or gliding, but it needs to be on like a level surface. So that's why it's usually never used. And there's two places in the run where I can use it here. That was the first one, the second one will come later. Olimar is usually not that bad. That was strange. So after that fight, I'm just gonna save and quit. Or not even save, just quit. Go back to that door we just went in. Pick Pokemon Trainer this time. Because as we saw way back when in Ruined Hall, Charizard is really good against bosses with Rock Smash. So that's what we're gonna do against Duon here. This is way faster than anything that I can do.
This is a really neat looking boss, though.
Yeah. Yeah, Duon's pretty cool. But after you use Pokemon Trainer, we don't really need him anymore, so nasty. Go to Meta Knight. Move on. Because why would you want to not be Meta Knight? Except in that one instance. Snake is very similar to Falcon in that they're kind of awkward fights. So I'm kind of just going to try my best to not do them terribly. If I do a shuttle loop off stage and I miss, I basically am dead. So that's why I'm kind of really careful on when I'm doing these. Just like that. I'm great at doing that. So, this is a bit of a mess here. Unity has not worked out for these bosses. You know what we can do? Some of the old Brawl strats. Yeah, so being Unity is probably the worst thing you can do in Maze. It's really rough. But luckily there's a place right after here where we can get Meta Knight back. Just at the cost of time. So next we have to get this key to move on to the next one. Really easy. Game & Watch is typically weird. There seems to be like no consistency with how light a character typically is and how light they are in Great Maze. Because, as we'll see later, a lot of the typically heavy characters are really light and just like die right away, while a lot of the lighter characters just have a difficult time dying, so it's kind of odd sometimes. Meta Knight has a pretty good AI. For some reason. There's a couple enemies that have really good AI, some that are just awful. So Meta Knight is pretty good, Zelda's coming up later is pretty good. Some others... Then there's characters like Ness that are kind of just bad. Nice gliding here. Moving into the next fight, there's a bit of movement getting to Porky, which is next. There is some semblance of continuity going with these in the order of the days here. This glide is kind of difficult to do. It's hard to do completely. Just because keeping your speed for that long is fairly hard. Alright, good. Finish the fight before he did the laser attack. Laser attack does a lot of damage, it's really annoying. So because we died earlier, don't really have to heal here, which is nice. Usually I'm at like 140% here and I just have to heal before the next fights, but don't have to anymore. Lost that time elsewhere, which is alright. As the music states, Donkey Kong. So we're going to be coming back here later, after we complete all the fights. That's where the final boss is. But we have a little bit more to go before we get there. So first Samus, then Pikachu. Hopefully I can show off the Pikachu strat, because the one for Kirby didn't work, so maybe this one will. This
I
one's
wanted to say that I really liked that Metroid music earlier on there.
Yeah, all the music in this game is super good. Yeah, so I tried to just down smash and ducky there, but the tech roll was a bit odd. Sorry. Can do a very mini glide here. Yeah. I think it was like a fraction of a second, probably.
Oh my goodness, and more really good Metroid music.
Except this time it'll actually last some time.
Yeah. This is so good. The Metroid Prime intro music is so good. Hey, does anybody want to submit Metroid Prime to Color with Pride? That would be so fun. I really like the music in that game.
So let's see how Rob goes here. So like I said earlier, Rob is typically a heavy, but also dies in one shuttle loop for some reason. Really, no one else can do that, which is strange. Every other character typically needs at least some damage on them before the shuttle loop, but Rob is just a friendly robot. There's another instance of the hitting through walls. And now we have Ridley. Ridley's RNG kind of seems set typically. It's usually the same move starting out. Usually that one. And then we usually don't see another one. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Wow, that's unfortunate. Thought I could survive. So unfortunately died again because I miscounted my jump. Thought I had one more than I did.
Also really good music right there.
So a lot of these sections are kind of just like ripped from their original stage. This one is 100% identical to its stage. Couple of characters they kind of just put somewhere, like Bowser's position here kind of doesn't make that much sense, but he had to go somewhere. Same with DDD, the next one here. You know? Alright. I just wasn't paying attention there. I can make up an excuse, but no, that was bad. So, I have to go through Maze of Charizard now. So Charizard's kill options are also up B. Just not as good as Meta Knight. Still pretty alright though. Around BD is probably like the worst place to lose Meta Knight, just because there's not a chance to recover for a while. So we'll get through it. See what we can do with Thunder here. There we go. So yeah, the next place that I can recover is after Meta Ridley, which is 2 fights from now. So it really shouldn't be that bad. We can maybe show off Charizard's glide, which is pitiful, but it's a glide. Let's see if we can do it. It's pretty bad. So now we go to Meta Ridley, because this is obviously where Meta Ridley was earlier. Right? Right. Alright, so now we go back to Meta Knight, and I'll actually keep him this time. Promise. For at least a couple fights. So this upcoming section is probably the hardest part in Maze. From Mario to Galleon is kind of tricky. Mario fight's a little odd because RNG is like just really weird. Like Mario usually doesn't do the same patterns compared to other ones like Kirby or Yoshi. Then this whole platform movement part is just really tricky to do properly. Mostly 2 rooms from now. This room, if done right, you can just glide right through the whole thing. Good enough. So now this room, I'm going to go through really quickly, avoiding all these enemies. And if I go fast enough, we can just avoid everything. Just like that. That's a really difficult room to do that strategy. You can just be safer and kill all the enemies, but don't have to. So here's the 3rd time we see Galleon, and final one. If you want to see him anymore, you can check out Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, we actually had that as our Zeromus sprite earlier for Final Fantasy IV randomizer. We had Galemus.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I went the wrong way. There was a fairly new, not super new anymore, probably was around October-ish, a new route change that we found for Maze, so that's a bit faster. Where you do Charizard first instead of Zelda. It kind of just removes a bit of redundancy. So as I might have mentioned earlier, Zelda is the next fight, and the AI is pretty good. As in, the AI does not want to die. So hopefully we'll get a good fight in. If not, it's unfortunate, but yeah, just how it goes.
Lend your energy, chat.
Should be alright. Wrong way. That should be okay. Yeah, good fight.
Nice.
Peach is going to be the last fight. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Or I'll just die again. I've done that a couple times on Peach, it's not too bad. Mostly because right after this fight we're going to be resetting anyways, and we get our characters back. So it's okay. So now we're kind of in the last stretch of the run here.
Alright, let's bring it home.
There's about 7-8 more minutes, but for the most part. Again, it depends on how good the fights go, but after here I think there's maybe 9-10 more fights. So next is going to be Luigi. Slide all the way over to Rayquaza. This is another situation where you really want Meta-Knight. Everyone else is really bad at climbing this part. Meta-Knight is at least kind of right. Charizard has a lot of issues with vertical gain, as does Eevee, so. So Rayquaza is the same as before. Complete with bad RNG. So conveniently, we get to go back here, and we get to work back where we already were twice. So now we get to go back to this central hub, pretty much. Fight Lucas. That somehow did not hit. Surprising. Same with that one. There we go. This part is lifted directly from Glacial Peak, with like one exception. And that's this thing. In a regular level, it was just a one-way platform, now it's a two-way. Oops. Alright, Lucario was another like light heavy that I was kind of going on about earlier. Ice Climbers, all you have to do is KO the lead one. Which is the one that has CPU on their end. So Ike kind of doesn't know how to recover, so if we just get him off stage, it's over. Oh wow, shocking. He actually attempted to. Generally he just falls and does nothing. Sometimes. I'm gonna go in this door to make that this falling ceiling on the right Go back up, kind of reset where it is. Oh boy. Now we have Marth. That's the second time he's done that for me. Very nice of him. I did miss the, you could have used infinite dimensional cape there. That's the other opportunity, but I kind of wasn't paying attention. It's alright, not really a big deal. Moving into Ganon, which is the last normal fight of Mace. Typically, this fight is easy. There we go. So now with all the fights done, we can move into Taboo, who is the last boss and the end of the run. Time is going to end on the last hit. I'll just call it out. So we're going to start with Charizard, because as always, he's good at bosses with mana as backup just in case. So Taboo likes to move around a lot. Really annoying. So this one is going to be off waves, probably. Yeah, it's generally what it does. That's okay, I was probably going to die anyways. And... time.
Alrighty.
So that'll do it for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Subspace Emissary. Wasn't my best work, but it's kind of early here. Well, late, early, whatever. But
yeah,
give myself some excuses, I guess.
It's the in between times right now.
Yeah.
It's 6:50 where I am, so.
Yeah, me too. So I got a couple stuff to do and go to bed later. So 206, it's not bad. Generally I'm going for like 204, 203, but that's okay.
A year ago, that would have been a huge world record.
That would have been a really big world record a long time ago. Would have been a world record, what? April?
April
maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so it was a good run. If anyone's interested in watching more runs, I guess I'll advertise myself. I generally do Brawl runs. I'll be playing Ultimate, but not sure about speedrunning it. Guess we'll find out in the future. So yeah. Thanks to the marathon organizers for letting me run. I hope everyone enjoyed.
Yeah, we super enjoyed having you along.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead and transition us to an intermission, and we should have the next run up pretty soon.
All right, enjoy the marathon.
You.